Hello everyone, dear audience. Thanks for joining the Wednesday's Bhagavad-Gita class from ISKCON of Silicon Valley. Today we'll be discussing from Srimad Bhagavad-Gita as it is, written by Srila Prabhupada, chapter 9, the most confidential knowledge. That's going to be the topic of today. Now, before we do that, we are going to do the Mangalacharan prayers to bring the auspiciousness so that our class goes successful. So I'm going to share my screen. Om Ajnana-timirandhasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vande Aham Sri Guru Sri Utapadakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanuvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Shahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanuvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Shute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nitai namene che namer hate Sadha mulle nam dite che Nitai namene che namer hate Sadha mulle nam dite che Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo 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 Hare Hare. So today's topic of discussion is from Srimad Bhagavad-Gita as it is written by Srila Prabhupada, and we are going to focus on chapter 9. We will go verse by verse till the end of this chapter, and we'll take a slight segue from some of the verses into Srimad Bhagavatam. So, just to give a little bit of background, as you know, Srimad Bhagavad-Gita was spoken in battlefield before Arjun wanted to start the war. He saw his relatives on the other side, specifically his own respected martial teacher, Guru Drona, and a very exalted soul, Bhishmadev, on the other side. And he said, how can I do that? How can I kill them just for a kingdom? They are worshipable for me. So Krishna gave me direction. He accepted Lord Krishna as the spiritual master. That's in the beginning of 2nd chapter. And that's where the whole topic, the whole Bhagavad Gita starts getting spoken by Lord Krishna. And of course, Arjuna asks questions in between. In the 2nd chapter, it is the distinction between the soul and the body. In the third chapter, the focus is on Karma Yoga. Towards the end of third chapter, of course, Arjuna asks that why a person is sometimes helpless, even though Karma Yoga means, we are supposed to, perform duties based on our occupation, but sometimes why someone is helpless and commits abominable acts. And Lord Krishna says it's because of lust. And then the whole fourth chapter is dedicated towards how the transcendental knowledge, the transcendental pastimes of Lord Krishna can help one overcome that enemy called lust. The fifth is how when one is, Krishna conscious, has the Krishna conscious knowledge, can apply that. So, action in Krishna consciousness. In the sixth chapter, Lord Krishna talks about the whole Dhyan Yoga, right? And what does one realize at the end of the Dhyan Yoga, right? And that is what the seventh chapter and eighth chapter. Seventh chapter is the knowledge of absolute, where it says, Lord Krishna says, I have two energies. One is the Tatastha superior, and then the other is the, the material energy. The Tatastha has the choice. He can either exploit the material energy and in turn struggle, or he can go to its internal potency, go back to Godhead. And in the eighth chapter, he further elaborates on, because towards the seventh chapter, Lord Krishna explains few terminologies like Brahman, about what is karma, right? Sacrifice, yajna, and so. But then Lord Krishna stresses at the end of seventh chapter that if one has to go back and never come back, then one has to accept Lord Krishna as the governing principle for all these things that he mentions, the Brahman, the yajna, karma, that. And then, and one has to focus on Krishna. So that's the eighth chapter. Arjuna asks that how can anyone remember you at the time of death? And of course, he asks also, what is Brahman and what is Adi Yajna, and then the various aspects of Lord Krishna, the governing principles. Towards the eighth chapter, end of the eighth chapter, Lord Krishna says that when one follows this devotional service, right, then he gets all the benefits, or all that can be ultimately achieved by either following the path of the Vedic study or through Karma Yoga, right? Or, through the meditational process, you can achieve through the devotional service. He says that. Now, in the ninth chapter, so that is more confidence. Seventh and eighth chapter, you can consider that as more confidential. So confidential knowledge is, of course, the distinction between soul and body, which is not only in this Kali Yuga, in the current age, but even in the bygone ages, people, although they had this distinction, they knew soul and body, they were mostly, when you come to this material world, you are mostly in the bodily concept of life. Even though theoretically, there is this distinction of soul and body. Of course, in Kali Yuga, in the current age, people don't even know that there is anything called soul. They kind of stop somewhere in the concept of psyche or mind. Okay. So from the Kali Yuga standpoint, it is a confidential knowledge. More confidential is when Krishna's energy is controlling and governing everything. That is the seventh and eighth chapter. And the ninth chapter is where the pure unalloyed devotional service, Lord Krishna is going to talk about. And he's going to talk about some of the aspects which is confidential. Is confidential in the sense that anyone can go and read Srimad Bhagavad-Gita. So how is it most confidential? It's most confidential from the perspective of the nature of the person, the listener who is listening. And Lord Krishna will enlist some of the qualities of a person who is qualified to receive this confidential knowledge. So without much ado, so we'll start reading the verses. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Idam tu te guhyatamam pravakshyami anashuyave jnanam vijnana sahitam yat kyatva mokshayash shubhat. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, my dear Arjun, because you are never envious of me, This is the key quality of the person who, when he reads this ninth chapter, also receives it, makes it part of his consciousness. This is the preliminary quality of a person, never envious of Lord Krishna. Says further, I shall impart to you this confidential knowledge and realization, knowing which you shall be relieved of the miseries of material existence. Now, aren't we all trying very, very hard with all our inventions and discoveries and planning? Ultimately, at the end of the day, we are trying to overcome the miseries of material existence. That's what we are trying to do. Lord Krishna is saying that if someone is not envious of him, then this knowledge of ninth chapter can help him relieve of the miseries of material existence. Now, what does it mean to be not envious of Lord Krishna? It's not just the Krishna as a person who came 5,000 years back, his pastimes, his opulence, not just that. There's a very subtle aspect also about not being envious of Lord Krishna. It's about the way the world is working. Is the way it is supposed to work. Not it should work, but it is supposed to work. Why? Because after all, in every atom, in every heart, there is a super soul who is directing. In case of an atom, they don't have their individual consciousness is completely shut down. So it is completely, the super soul has taken. So every atom behaves as it should. Same thing to a large extent with the animals. But human being has that independence. He has that free will. Right? So everything, even though he has free will, the choices that drive him are actually ultimately framed by Lord Krishna. Right? So he is pretty much controlling everything. So you should not be even envious of other people, other living entities. When you say you're not envious of Krishna, you're not supposed to be envious of your friends or your enemies. It's a very large concept, it's a deep concept, but that is what not being envious of Krishna means. Okay? So he says, but if someone is qualified like that, then he can reap the benefit. Just ninth chapter of Srimad Bhagavad-Gita, whatever Lord Krishna is saying, understand that, and then he gives instructions, follow that. You don't need anything else. Okay. But that's what, when you say we are not envious of Krishna, it is not just Lord Krishna. It is the way the world is working. Okay. The living entities there, the way not becoming envious of them. Right. Rajavidya Rajaguhyam Pavitram Idam Uttamam Pratyaksha Avagamam Dharmyam Shushukham Kartum Abhyayam. Rajavidya. Raja means king. Raja. We know that. Raja is king. So it's a king of education. Raja Guhyam, king of confidential knowledge. That is the most confidential knowledge. That's what it means. Right? Pavitram, this is pure. This, Uttamam, transcendental. Pratyaksha, by direct experience. Understood the principle of religion. Very happy to execute everlasting. What he's saying, Lord Krishna, is that this knowledge we can have a direct experience of this knowledge, and it is everlasting. It never gets exhausted. In this material world, when you engage with the material knowledge, you always sort of, you are done with it and you move on to something else, right? Because you don't get that joy from that thing after some time. You get bored. Lord Krishna is saying, no, this knowledge is not like that. It is everlasting and joyfully performed. Right? And then the people who come to temple and do their service, or they go out of the temple, do service outside, they might have experienced that. right? And that is what Lord Krishna is talking about, the direct experience you get. And when Krishna says knowledge, why he is linking it to joyfully perform? What is there to perform in knowledge? Right? So, and that we are going will look at, because although it says knowledge, it says here, Lord Krishna says dharmyam, dharma. That is why he says, you have a direct experience. It is not just the knowledge, but this religion you follow based on this knowledge. Then that is everlasting, and it is joyfully performed, and it gives you that direct perception. Like the people who come to the temple, do service, right? They feel that basically, and that is why some of the devotees will say they don't like to go back, basically, because after going back, come morning again, you go through that grind. If you have children, you send them to school, you go, like there is a rush in traffic. If not, today there is Zoom going on, you have to keep an eye over whether he or she is studying or whatever. I didn't have this experience, but I'm assuming those are the kind of experiences you go through. And then the work life starts, deadline. You have to finish this code, you have to finish this presentation. You don't know how it will be taken. In devotional service is not like that, because here Lord Krishna is looking at your effort. He's not really always looking at your result. Sees how with pure heart you are serving him. That is what he's looking at. Everything else he supplies you. If you are not good at certain thing, he gives you help. Okay? He sends people. And that is what this king of education, when applied through religious principles, becomes joyful. Right? And then Lord Krishna will elaborate more. Asraddha purusha dharmasyasha parantapa aprapya mam nivartante mrityu sansara vartamani. Those who are not faithful in this devotional service cannot attain me, O conqueror of enemies. Therefore, they return to the path of birth and death in this material world. This material world that we live in is so dazzling, so attractive, that even though you are in this devotional service, even though you're feeling that joy, you still, like a spring, it takes you back to that material world. If there is no joy in material world, you have this nagging feeling that you have to perform some duty towards your home. And of course, you have to do that. But you can do that. That is also devotional service. You have to look at it that way. You're not doing that to compete with someone. You're doing that because you're supposed to do that. Like Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad-Gita 2nd chapter to Arjun, Arjun, fight because it is your duty to fight, to protect the religious principles. Don't worry about whether you will win or you will lose. You just do your duty. And do your duty because, why you do your duty? Because that will please me, because these duties have been established by me through the Varnashram Dharma. So if you do them, you are following my order. That pleases me. Don't get bogged down by competition and result and metric and KPI and all that. Right? So those who are not faithful in this devotional service, right? So Lord Krishna is saying that you have to you have to have that faith. Don't be under that impression that indirectly is trying to say, don't be under the impression that everything will always go like beds of roses. No, there will be fall down, there will be reverses, but you still need to have faith in this devotional service. In this dharmasya, process of religion, you need to have the faith. If you don't, then you cannot attain me. Then you go back to that same birth and death, right? Which is misery. That is what Lord Krishna was saying in the beginning, the first verse, to overcome the misery. That's your goal. But if you don't have faith in this devotional service, then you go back to material world. When you stay in material world, there will be misery. Cannot help it. That's how the material world is designed. There's always this intense competition. Everyone is trying to be Krishna. So there will be competition. There will be misery. You have something today, someone will snatch it away from you tomorrow. That's material world. Everyone is trying to be Krishna. Right? So you need to have faith, and Srila Prabhupada in this purport he's writing that how can a devotee who realizes that this is the right path, how can I keep my faith? And he's saying the most important thing in keeping in faith is association. You do your devotional service, but then you also associate with the like-minded devotees. That will make your faith strong. So this way, you need to at least during the week, if you cannot do, at least in the weekend, you go and go to the temple and mix with other devotees. Of course, these days because of Corona and everything, you need to keep a distance, but still, in the Zoom online or whatever, that association of that sabda words, the beautiful sweet words of the devotional service, right? Sravanam, that association has to be there. That is what keeps the faith strong. So until verse 3, Lord Krishna said, what this knowledge, if you follow, what is the qualification, of course, not to be envious of Krishna. Then he says what this knowledge will do. And he also says, if you don't follow this, you don't apply, then what will happen? Okay, he says both. But what is that knowledge? He didn't say it yet. He actually starts saying that from verse 4. Maya tatam idam sarvam jagat avyakta murtina matsthani sarva bhutani na chaham tesva avasthita. Right? What is saying? Avyakta murtina, unmanifested form. By me, in my unmanifested form, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. So what Lord Krishna is saying is that he is present in this world, but not in manifested form. Right? He is present in unmanifested form. And this is where we'll take a segue into some of the Bhagavatam verses to exactly connect this Lord Krishna's unmanifested form, what he's talking about, with something tangible we know that exists in this world. Okay, and so I'm going to take a segue into some verses in Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, so we will go to Srimad Bhagavatam 3, 10, 12. Okay, here Lord Krishna is not Lord Krishna. Here, I think this is third canto. So this is a conversation happening between Vidur and Maitreya Muni. So they are discussing about the process of creation and all that. Okay, the whole 9 yards. Right. So what is this verse saying? Vishwam ve brahma tanmatram samsthitam Vishnu mayaya Ishwarena parichinnam kalena vyakta avyakta. See that? Avyakta murtina. Same avyakta murti, what we just now read in 9th chapter. How? What is that avyakta murti here? It is being explained in more detail. This cosmic manifestation is separated from the Supreme Lord as material energy by means of Kala. So there is a wall, there is a veil between the Supreme Lord and this cosmic manifestation, which is made up of material energy. And what is that veil? That is Kala, time, which is the unmanifested impersonal feature of the Lord. It is situated as the objective manifestation of the Lord, under the influence of the same material energy of Vishnu. Vishnu Maya. Okay. There is this Durga Devi. So I don't know how many of you know, when you have this 5 days of worship of Durga Devi, 10 days before, there is something called Mahalaya that happens, in which you do stuti to Durga Devi. And one of the, and then you do this Mool mantras, right? And one of the words there says is, Ya Devi Sharva Bhuteshu Vishnu Mayeti Sabdita. Whenever you see this word Sabdita, you would mean that is the truth of this, whatever is being told. Here, the reference point is Durga Devi, who is the Mahamaya, as we all know. It clearly says in Mool Mantra that he is Vishnu Mayati, his truth is Vishnu's Maya. And of course, then he says, Namastasai, 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 Namo Namo. Right? So that is that energy of Vishnu, okay, is working under what? Working under Kala or time. So the time, through time actually, Lord Krishna separates himself from the material manifestation. And time gives instruction. Just think of this way, a Supreme Lord is giving the plan, grand plan to Durga Devi, and then that grand plan is nothing but the time, right? And Durga Devi takes that plan and executes. And that's what this material manifestation is. Right? And I gave you a very crude example, right? There is another verse we will go in Srimad Bhagavatam, which talks similar thing, okay? Evam kalvapi anumita. So this is verse, by the way, this is verse Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 11th chapter, and text number 3. Evam kalvapi anumita shakshme sthale cha shattama samsthana bhuktya bhagavan avyakto vyakta bhug vibhu. So he's saying one can estimate time by measuring the movement of the atomic combination of bodies. Very similar to the modern science, right? Time is the potency of the Almighty Personality of Godhead, Hari. Now here it is saying very clearly, it's one of his energy, who controls all physical movement. Everything that is happening in this world, he's controlling through time. But see the next sentence, although he is not visible in the physical world, he's not present, he's not visible here. So these are the two important verses which sort of took a segue to really understand what is this unmanifested form Lord Krishna is talking about, right? So all beings are in me. So the beings are all in this material manifestation. So they are actually this whole material manifestation, which is a separated energy spoken of in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad-Gita, right? And then his unmanifested form, that is the time energy, is controlling it, right? But he's saying, I am not in them, basically, right? And he will give some examples, some analogy in next verse, which explains further what does he mean by that. I am not in them. Na chamatstani bhutani pashyame yogam aishwaram bhuta vrinna cha bhutastho mamatma bhuta bhavana. And yet everything that is created does not rest in me. Okay. Behold my mystic opulence. Although I am the maintainer of all living entities, and although I am everywhere, I am not part of this cosmic manifestation. For myself is the very source of creation. So he's saying this whole manifestation I have created from my own self. Right? So when he says myself, he actually, to understand, Lord Krishna himself does not do it. Right? He expands into Mahavishnu, and then there is this Mahat Tattva where Mahavishnu looks at with his time energy, and then these 3 modes of material nature take birth, and the whole creation starts, basically. And it's elaborately described, exactly the 3rd canto where I was there, it is elaborately that process is described, right? But he's saying that he is away from there. This is his creation, and that is how he's present. He's present here in this cosmic manifestation as the time, and that is why I read those verses to clarify how he is present. He's present as that time energy. But he himself, his personal self, is away from that. He's not directly involved. Although, of course, when he comes as avatar, takes different forms, like in the form of hog, Bara avatar, or Nishingadev, right? Half lion, half human, or Lord Ram, Lord Krishna, right? So at that time, he does come, and that is why people mistake, right? He, on one hand, is saying, I'm not part of this, and then when he comes, then say, oh, so he is just a very powerful lion or powerful bull, or he's just a powerful human being like Lord Krishna, right? They don't understand that for him nothing is impossible. He can remain in this being, be part of it, and yet remain outside and control everything. Right? For him, everything is possible. Right? And we'll read a little bit more about that in some subsequent verses. And here he's giving an analogy, Lord Krishna. Yatha akasha sthito nityam vayu sarvatra go mahan tatha sarvani bhutani matsthani ti padharaya. Okay. Understand that as the mighty wind, okay, vayu, blowing everywhere, rests always in the sky, all created beings rest in me. So just like the wind, it goes everywhere. Similarly, living beings, they are going in this material world all over, right? Go to all the 14 worlds based on their karma, based on their desire, based on the consciousness they have when they leave the body, right? We read in the 8th chapter. He goes there throughout this 14 worlds, is going up and down like a Ferris wheel, right? So that is how they are. That sky, that whole encompassing sky is Lord Krishna's energy, where beings are moving up and down. He created them and moving down. So you can always say the sky is there within the being also, because there are empty spaces in our body. Yes, but that does not mean that all of the sky is in one body, one created being. It is everywhere. It is inside and it is outside. Right? So you cannot say that their scope is within living being only. No, they are within. The sky is within the created beings also, but it is outside also. It is encompassing all the created beings also. That's the analogy. Very crude analogy is used to. So an example how Lord Krishna is created everything. He's present. He's all pervasive in this creation, but yet he's outside that, just like the sky. So he's giving an analogy here. And he further says, Sarva Bhut, and these are the confidential knowledge he starts speaking, right? And this most confidential knowledge, because many people, many scholars, they cannot digest the fact that a human being with just 2 hands may be very powerful, but how can he create everything, basically? I mean, he came into this world 5,000 years back, and somewhat towards that, after Mahabharat's war and all, he left this world. Right? I mean, how can we say that he created everything? Right? So they get confused. They look at things very objective, in a very objective way, because that's what Lord Krishna says. In those Bhagavatam verses, it is an objective manifestation. So this material world, that is why you see, we always see when the people are arguing, they say, try to be objective, don't be partial, don't be biased, try to be objective, because that's the nature of this material world. That's how Lord Krishna created it. Supposed to be objective. Right? So they become objective, and they say, oh, well, yeah, Lord Krishna came 2 hands, just like us, right? And he was very powerful, no doubt, but then, he came and then he left this world just like anyone. So it doesn't make sense that, he created all this. Right? So that is why Lord Krishna is saying, and the reason why they do it is partially because of their, in the deep within the heart, they are actually envious people. The whole concept of impersonalism, right, not as a seeker of truth, but as an agenda, agenda driven philosophy, you can call it, right? This impersonalism. That is the root of that is envy towards Krishna. And that is why they cannot accept this fact. And Lord Krishna said, therefore, in the beginning of this 9th chapter, he said, Arjuna, I am telling you this because you are not envious of me. That is the qualification. Cannot be envious of Lord Krishna, and then you won't you will not be able to accept anything what Lord Krishna is saying in this 9th chapter if you are envious of it. Right? And he says that, O son of Kunti, at the end of the millennium, all material manifestations enter into my nature. And at the beginning of another millennium, by my potency, I create them again. Right? So this is because Lord Krishna is referring to himself, right? This could happen in because it's talking about Kalpa. So this could happen as at the end of the day of Brahma, or it can also be taken as the end of the universe or end of the life of Brahma, which is after 100 Brahma years. This is like 311 trillion years. That's the life of Brahma. And Brahma is now around, his age is 50 years. Okay. 157 trillion years has passed for our universe. So both can be, because when the day of Brahma is over, then what happens? Not all the higher planets like Janaloka, Maharloka, they don't get submerged, but this Bhur, Bhuva, and Swa, like the the Patal, this earthly creation, and then the heavenly, they get submerged. Okay, and then also they go into the nature of Garbhodakshai Vishnu. Okay, they get absorbed there, right, into the water and everything, right? But then that towards the end of the life of Brahma, where the whole universe, go back to their elements, then also the living entities then they go to the nature of Karanadakshay Vishnu, who is the source of millions and trillions of universes. So that is also they going back to his nature, right? But what he's saying, they go back to his nature, and then when the another millennium starts, so you can apply to both. When the another universe starts, or maybe the universe, the next day of Brahma happens, he creates them again. Right? They again come back. Prakritim swam avastabhya visrajami punah punah bhuta gramam imam krishnam avasam prakritir vasat. The whole cosmic order is under me. Under my will, it is automatically manifested again and again. And under my will, it is annihilated at the end. So we have to understand this concept of when Lord Krishna says will, what does he mean? Based on the will, whatever his will is, it manifests as the time factor. And then, the material nature takes that time factor and then executes either the creation, the manifestation, or the annihilation, the destruction. Okay. So he is not directly involved, but he is involved some way in this process. Okay. And that Lord Krishna will explain later. But he does have a role. Okay. And the reason why he's doing this is because not for him to gain something. Okay. He's doing this because there's living entities who had desire to enjoy without Krishna. So Lord Krishna then what he did, he took a reflection of his very own spiritual world, created this material world, but he removed himself away. Instead, he kept only his time factor. That's what he kept. Right? And through the time factor, he executes so that living entity can satisfy their enjoying propensities. Whether they will be happy or not, that is a doubtful, that's an entirely different matter, and Lord Krishna did talk about that in the first verse. He is full of miseries, and the misery happens because of a reason that Lord Krishna is one, is a one form, but this his energy, okay, which represents his beauty, his material nature, has many millions of objects, and they're distributed. That is why we are never happy with getting one thing, because we are just getting a portion of that happiness we get, an infinitesimal portion, insignificant portion of the happiness we get when we are with Krishna. Therefore, we are not happy, because soul is happy, because remember, the soul is part and parcel of Krishna. So his complete happiness can happen only when there is Krishna. When it's Krishna, then only he can be happy, fully happy. And he doesn't look anywhere else. But because he's in material world, he wants to enjoy without Krishna. So Krishna took a back seat, okay, put a veil, and that veil is the time factor. Okay, try it. See if you can be happy. And that's the reason, basically. Krishna knew, basically, these people will not be happy. That does not mean he designed this universe to make sure that, the people are not happy here. No. This universe is, if you follow the devotional service, even in this universe, there are people who follow the devotional service and they are in ecstasy. They are getting transcendental bliss. So this universe is not designed, actually. But the people who are in bodily concept of life want to enjoy away from Krishna as a result. For them, it is a miserable existence. Why? Because they don't accept Krishna, so therefore everyone is trying to be Krishna. And not one person, everyone have that enjoying presence. And that's why there is a conflict. This resource constraint, optimization, all that we hear. The reason is everyone is trying to, be on the top of the world. Everyone is trying to be Krishna. And in that process, they are creating miseries for each other. And that's what is going on. So that is the thing. So under my will, it is annihilated. So it is created by Krishna for us, so that he wants us to try what we wanted to try to enjoy without him, but we are not happy. We are not happy without Krishna, Lord Krishna. Right? And that's the reason, because nothing in this world contains all the happiness that is there in Krishna. Okay? And therefore we are not happy, basically. We take one thing, we become bored, and you go to another thing. Right? Na chamam tani karmani nibadnanti dhananjaya udashinavad ashinam ashaktam teshu karmashu. O Dhananjaya, now Lord Krishna is saying, all this work cannot bind me. I am ever detached from all these material activities, seated as though neutral. Is neutral. Is detached from all these activities. And there is a reason. The reason is he did not create this whole world for himself. He actually created for us. That is why he is neutral. But then he set some rules. And why he had to set those rules? Because exactly the same reason what we discussed. Everyone is trying to be Krishna. Right? So therefore we are all trying to be number one. But we cannot be. We don't have those 6 opulences in full, which Lord Krishna has. So we fail. And because of that because of our enjoying propensities, right, we will tend to step over each other. We will not follow the principle of live and let live. We will not. That Ishopanishad, they are saying, everyone, right? I think it's the first verse, right? We are supposed to take only our quota and be happy. We will not be happy. We will not do that, basically, even though it is said in Ishopanishad. That is why Lord Krishna has to create some rules. So that, okay, you enjoy, this is your quota, you enjoy, and that is his quota, he enjoys. right? Or he or she enjoys, right? If we do that, then we'll all be happy, even in this material world. But we don't because we are envious of Krishna, and that is what I was explaining in the first few verses, that when we are envious of Krishna, then we are envious about everything about Krishna. Even the rules also we don't like to follow, right? So he is detached. He's made some rules, and those rules again, so that all of us can have happiness here. But we don't want to follow, and therefore we are in misery. So he is neutral. He's doing all this work, but he's neutral. There's nothing in it for him. Maya dhakshena prakriti shuyate sa characharam hetuna akanteya jagad viparivartate. This material nature, which is one of my energies, is working under my direction. O son of Kunti, producing all moving and non-moving beings. Under its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. So here Lord Krishna is clarifying further. Okay? He's again clarifying further that what is the relationship between the Lord and the material energy here. He is saying that this material nature, which is one of his energies, he has many energies, right? Parasya Shakti Vividha Vasuyate. He has many energies, said in Upanishad, right? So this material nature is creating moving and non-moving beings, and we think it is automatically by chance it is happening, either by chance or automatically. No. Behind every automation, there has to be a person who created that automation, right? And that plan of automation came from Lord Krishna to the material nature, right? Under its rule means under material nature. So direct ruler is material nature. This manifestation is created and highlighted. But that rule is being given by Lord Krishna, working under my direction. That rule comes from him. That direction comes from him, Lord Krishna. Okay, now we will move into another topic in this chapter. So I want to quickly check, go to YouTube and see if anyone has any questions. Yeah, there are no questions here. Facebook. Yeah, there are no questions here. I just wanted to check. And I'll also like to ask here if anyone has any questions, any comments, because we will move into another topic inside this ninth chapter. If we don't have any,
I like the point, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji, for a nice class. I like the point when you said that
Mataji, I think
Krishna has made this.
I think you are breaking, Mataji. Your voice is breaking.
Okay, I cannot go. Okay, I will say later.
I think you said that you like the point that Krishna did not create this creation for himself. He actually created for us. I think that's what you meant.
Oh, like I like that. Yeah, that you said that there are people who are in devotional service and they are in ecstasy in this world. So this world is not just dukhalyam only. If you engage in Krishna's service, and so you can also get ultimate ecstasy and bliss.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Lord Krishna, because Lord Krishna's another characteristic is he's all merciful. Even though we tried to ignore him and we came to this world to enjoy, he actually made sure, just like a very good father, he made sure that even in this world, you know, even though we don't want to acknowledge him, we should not have any problem. So he gave us good rules, through the Varnashram Dharma and various Smriti Shastra. He gave us rules. If we follow those rules, then even in this world, we can live happily. And if we do devotional service, that's the icing on the cake. Even in this world, we can be happy because now our body is in material world, but our consciousness is in spiritual world. Right? It's like as Srila Prabhupada used to say that in this heart, they had, such pure devotees in their heart, they have like a TV. And that TV is connected to the spiritual world. When they go in samadhi, then they can see what is going on in the spiritual world. How in Golok Vrindavan, Lord Krishna is playing with his friends, his girlfriends, how he's stealing butter, from different houses. They see all that. They go into transcendental bliss. Thank you, Mataji, for commenting, providing your insights and reflections there. So looks like we don't have any other comments. So I will go ahead and proceed further. Okay. Verse 11. Avajananti mamura manushim tanum ashritam param bhavam ajananto mama bhuta maheshwaram. Mudha means fools. Srila Prabhupada used to say rascal sometimes for mudhas. But actually it is fools basically. Okay, mudhas means fools. So fools deride me when I descend in the human form. It is exactly the point we are just now discussing. There are some of these agenda-based, not all impersonalists are bad, by the way, because the four Kumaras, who first came from Lord Brahma, right? They were also impersonalists in the beginning, but they became devotees, pure devotees, because they saw impersonalism also as the energy of the Supreme. They didn't have that experience of that devotion. When they went near Vaikuntha and smelled the flowers which touched the lotus, which came from the lotus feet, the tulasi leaves, the smell of the tulasi leaves which touched the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu, and they became devotees, basically. Right? They experienced it. Right? So those impersonalists are different, but the impersonalists which are agenda-based, their goal is basically to, say, there is nothing like God. Everyone can be God, because they're envious. Right? They're envious of Krishna, so they don't want to accept Lord Krishna as God. For them, it is a foolish proposition. So those are the fools, Lord Krishna is saying. They deride him when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature as the supreme Lord of all that be. Maha Ishwaram. Ishwaram means controller or proprietor. Right? He controls everything. He controls even the demigods, which controls many things, who controls many aspects of this universe. He controls even them. Right? They don't know that. They cannot accept that someone like that could come in human form. Right? And what happens when you do that? What happens? The result is not very good. Okay, and that is what Lord Krishna says in the next verse. Mogha asha, mogha karmanu, mogha jnana vichetasa, rakshashim asurim chaiva, prakritim mohinim srita. Mogha asha means, they're baffled, frustrated. Whatever hopes they have, they're frustrated in that. Any fruitive activity do, they're frustrated. Jnana, path of knowledge, they're frustrated. Why? Because they're bewildered by demonic and atheistic views. Rakshasi Masur. Okay? Nature, bewildering. They take shelter of material nature. So those who are thus bewildered are attracted by demonic and atheistic views. In their deluded condition, their hopes for liberation, their fruitive activities, and their culture of knowledge are all defeated. Right? So, because they're envious of Krishna, they are envious about, as I said, they're envious about everything about Krishna. Right? Even the other living entities. They're envious about the demigods also. Because demigods are good devotees of Krishna, although mixed. They have some material propensities, but they accept. Krishna, Lord Krishna in the form of Vishnu, they accept him. They go to him whenever they need it. They are in need of help. Right? But what happens with these people, because they don't accept Krishna or anything about Krishna, they try to do their own research, materialistic research. They try to understand the truth by observing the nature. And what is nature? It is the illusory energy of Lord Krishna. So if you try to understand, if a magician is doing a magic in front of you, and you try to understand the truth from there, that will always be falsehood, because the purpose of magician is to bewilder you. If you try to accept the truth based on what he's showing you, you will always be bewildered, because that is his purpose, to bewilder you. The magician's purpose is that he's creating that illusion to bewilder you. That's how he makes money. Right? Same thing. Mahamaya is, her purpose is, because she is also a devotee, Lord Krishna, right? Vishnu Maya iti Saplita, I was just now referring to, right? So he's not very happy with these people with this demonic and atheistic views, and she bewilders them, basically, right? She came to Mahishasur in a beautiful 16-year-old girl form. Mahishasur thought, oh, it's so vulnerable. Yeah, become my wife, Mahishasur said. And then when the war happened, then she came with her ferocious 10-hand forms and slashed him to death using her trishul. Right? That is what Mahamaya does. She bewilders. Right? So these demonic and atheistic people, they get bewildered because they're trying to get the absolute truth. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not talking about scientists here. Scientists, mostly they try to extract the relative truth. That is why they don't talk about truth anymore these days. Scientists, they say we are after a working model, an effective model. That is what they say, a model which gives me answer for this purpose. They are not after some absolute truth anymore, because they kind of realize that is something we cannot achieve through experiments or observation. But there are people, these agenda-based impersonalists, they fall under that category, who says there is no God, and we can know the whole truth about the absolute truth about this universe by our own endeavor. Right? Lord Krishna is talking about them. Okay. So in that deluded condition, their hopes, and then when they do that, their hopes for liberation, how can they liberate when they're taking Mohini, Prakritim Mohinim Srita? They take shelter of Prakriti, which is whole purpose is to create illusion for this kind of people. So they cannot get liberation. Their fruitive activities are also bewildered. Their culture of knowledge, they don't get the knowledge of absolute truth. Everything defeated. Mahatmanastu mam partha daivim prakritim ashrita bhajanti ananyo manasho gyatva bhutadim avyayam. But now Lord Krishna is saying those who are not deluded, those great souls are under protection of the divine nature. Now Lord Krishna has two natures. One is this material nature, another is his divine nature, the Yog Maya. And material nature is under Mahamaya. Mahamaya is illusory in nature. And while the Yog Maya, or the divine nature, is protective in nature. They give protection to the great souls. Not only physically, They give protection also by keeping them aloof from illusion. Why she does that is because they're fully engaged in devotional service. Just like in Bhagavatam, we read about this Jada Bharat, right? This dacoits, who were devotees of goddess Kali. They thought the goddess Kali will be very happy. They got Jada Bharat and they were trying to give him baliyan. Immediately, Lord goddess Kali, what, this devotee of Lord Krishna, they are going to kill him? He immediately came out from the his Vigraha form. The Vigraha form burst and she came out and immediately slashed all the demons. And he saved Jada Bharat. Right? So they give protection, this divine nature. The same Mahamaya, goddess Kali is Mahamaya actually. But she becomes Yogmaya. So this Maya concept of Lord Krishna or Vishnu is, you have to understand, is actually the same Maya. Okay, but they have two different, if you may call something like two different faces. Okay, towards the material world, she is Mahamaya. She is illusory in nature. In the spiritual world, she is Yogmaya. So Yog means connection. She connects. She helps in connecting you more and more. Although you are already connected, but she connects your devotional service. Lord Krishna, she helps basically. Okay. And so they are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. Adim, Abhyam. Abhyam is inexhaustible. Adim is original. Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami, like in Brahma Samhita. Right? Satatam Kirtayanto Mam Yatantascha Dridhavrata Namashyantascha Mam Bhaktya Nityayukta Upashate. Always chanting. So how they are doing the devotional service? Always chanting my glories, endeavoring with great determination means, this is another thing, that until you reach a stage of prema or maybe even bhava, right, that stage, the problems of material life will bother you, anartha nivrittim, that stage, or maybe even sometimes in ruchi stage and all, they will bother you. Okay. But these people, these devotees, sorry, not people, these pure devotees, they still chant the glories because they have that. Remember in third verse, Lord Krishna says, you need to have that faith. They know I need to have that faith that at the end, everything will work out okay. Lord Krishna will protect me. Bowing down before me, these great souls perpetually worship me with devotion. Okay. So that is what this determination aspect. That means that there will be fall downs, there will be reverses, but still they have faith, Lord Krishna. And they perpetually worship him. Because, why they have faith? Because they know he is the supreme, he controls everything, and he will take care of me. That's the kind of faith. Okay? These are all temporary things that will go away. That's the kind of faith. Jnana yagyena chapi anye yajanto mam upasate ekatvena prithaktena bahuda vishvato mukham. Now, Lord Krishna is talking about another set of people who also worship him, but they are not like this pure devotees though. They who engage in sacrifice by the cultivation of knowledge, yajna, they engage in sacrifice, right? They worship the Supreme Lord as one without a second, as diverse in many, and in universal form. So in different ways they worship him. So one without a second is the monistic people, follow the monism. Basically, and after this world, after we leave the body, we'll merge with Lord Krishna, Lord Vishnu. As diverse in many, they worship some demigod, thinking that demigod is the Supreme Lord. Okay, that's also one way. Okay, or in the universal form, they're very materialistic. They can only see matter. Okay, so this Virat group, they worship the Virat group. So they worship also the Supreme Lord, the different aspects of Supreme Lord, although not in the right way. Aham kratur aham yagya swadaham aham aushadham mantro aham aham evajam aham agni aham hutam. So why? So Lord Krishna is talking about yagya. Why is saying that? Because he did. Now he's going to expand on these people, right? He's talking about yagya, engage in sacrifice by cultivation of knowledge. So he's talking about that now, right? But it is I, in that yajna, is I who am the ritual, I the sacrifice, the offering to the ancestors, the healing herb, the transcendental chant, I am the butter and the fire and the offering. So everything I am, basically. The things which you are offering, okay, to whom you are offering, the ancestors, right? The mantra you are using, transcendental chant, everything is me ultimately. पीताहम अश्य जगतो माता धाता पितामह विद्यम पवित्रम ओंकार ऋक्षामा यजुरेव च. Here Lord Krishna is again saying the same thing. Okay, I am the father of this universe, the mother, the support, and the grandsire. I am the object of knowledge, the purifier, and the syllable Om. I am also the Rig, the Sama, and the Yajurvedas. Because when you do worship in this, it diverse in many that aspect what Lord Krishna is talking about in a couple of verses back. You're talking about these various demigods you're worshiping, which is very much part of the Rig, Sama, and Yajurvedas. Right? And you start with Om, which is also a representation of Lord Krishna. Right? He's also the purifier, which is there in the Krishna, right? So everything he's saying that at the end of the day, whichever way you worship, it is me only you will find everywhere. Okay. Of course, you need to have that I. Gatir Bharta Prabhu Shakshi Nivasha Sharanam Suhit Prabhava Pralaya Sthanam Nidhanam Bijam Abhayam. I am the goal, the sustainer, the master, the witness, the abode, the refuge, and the most dear friend. So, he is the goal. That is what ultimately we are all trying to directly, indirectly trying to achieve Krishna. But he is also the sustainer, right? He is sustaining us so that we can achieve the goal, right? He is the master, okay? He is master of everything, right? Not only us, everything, everyone, right? He is the witness. He is observing what we are doing. He is the abode, Nivasha. He is the abode, Nivas, place where we stay. The refuge. Refuge is Saranam, the shelter. And he's also the most intimate friend. Means he's talking about he's the super soul in the heart of every living being. Why most dear friend? Because the friends of this world, they are time pass friends. Do have a potluck, they will come, they will have some fun, they will go away. In times of needs, you cannot see them. Behind your back, they will try to pull you back. That kind of friend. They will never correct you, okay, when you're going in the wrong direction. But this super soul is there always, life after life. So that is why he's the most dear friend. I am the creation and the annihilation, the basis of everything, the resting place and the eternal seed. He is not only the creation and annihilation, this whole cosmic manifestation, but he is also the eternal seed. Okay. All these living entities, all this creation, that seed, those seeds, they come from Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna's expansion, actually, Mahavishnu. Right? They all come from him. So he is actually, through all these verses, is trying to explain that the devotees know all this fact, okay, and that is why they worship him. But the others who are not, they also need to understand that they are actually worshiping Lord Krishna. Okay, this verse, right? His verse where he's saying all this, right? Others who engage in the sacrifice by cultivation of knowledge. All these are the message to them, right? You're doing all this, you are using this yagya, then you are, you're reading the Vedas, all that, right? But you have to know that ultimately it is Krishna only is supporting all these things. He's sort of trying to bring them close to him. Tapami aham varsham nigrahanami utsrajami cha amritam chaiva mrityuscha sad asachaham Arjuna. Oh Arjuna, I give heat and I withhold and send forth the rain. I'm immortality and I'm also death personified. Both spirit and matter are in me. Right? So I give heat and withhold and send forth the rain. So he is giving heat and then he's also giving the rain. And they are all happening in their own time, right? In the right time. So I am immortality. So the opposites, all the dualistic aspect, the immortality and death. So he represents both, right? And both the spirit and matter are in me, right? The spirit means basically, the Sat and Asat. The spirit means, as he's talking about the soul, the Brahman, and the matter. This cosmic manifestation, which is all the time changing. Because the matter, he said in 7th chapter, the matter is energy. And he says all the spirit, these living souls, they are his part and parcel. So that's how, the spirit and matter, they are all belong to Krishna. So that's how they are in him. Traividyamam somapa puta papa yagyarisva swargatim prarthayante te punyamashadya surendra lokam ashnandi divyandi videva bhogam. So he's saying those who study the Vedas, Traividya, 3 Vedas, and drink the Soma juice, seeking the heavenly planets, worship me indirectly. Purified of sinful reactions, they take birth on the pious heavenly planet of Indra, where they enjoy godly delights. Now, we have to understand one thing, is in Vedas, there are these 4 sections, right? There's this Karma Kanda section, then there is this Brahmana section, an Aranyaka section, and then finally Upanishads. Now, the people who get attracted by these Karma Kanda sections, okay, so Vedas also contain the truths because they have Upanishads, right? The absolute truths, the kind of truths which the devotees basically, that's like the Paramhamsas, right? This abstract, that truths from the Upanishads, which are the real truths of the Veda. That is the ultimate goal, right? And Bhagavad-Gita is also an Upanishad because, the whole of Mahabharata, think of them like, compilation of Vedas to be explained to common folks. And Bhagavad-Gita is, within that Upanishad, right? So it's a Gita Upanishad, the Sar of all of the Vedas is there in the Gita Upanishad. That is why you will find all kinds of things in Bhagavad Gita, the Dhyan Yoga, Karma Yoga, Gyan Yoga, right? You will also find some lot of aspects of Brahma Sutras, right, in the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. That's the reason. So those who study the Vedas and drink the Soma juice, so these people are basically, they cannot go beyond the Karma Kanda, right? Because if you, in the Indra's heavenly planets, there is beautiful apsaras, there's so much of wine flowing, there's so much of food and so much of, sense pleasure. They, remain there itself. Okay. They remain in that level. Okay. And you will have, godly delight. So that's what, they seek the heavenly planets. But when they do that, they worship Lord Krishna indirectly. Right? That's what Lord Krishna is saying. People are worshipping him indirectly. Because and any kind of worship, this starts with yajna. And yajna is actually Lord Vishnu's mouth, his tongue. So whenever you do yajna to worship a demigod, you should know when you're putting ghee or healing herb, in that you are actually putting in the mouth of Lord Vishnu. He takes it fast. Right? And Lord Krishna will talk about that later. Etam muktva swargalokam vishalam shina punyamatya lokam vishanti evam tridharma manu prapanna gatagatam kama kama labhante. When they have thus enjoyed vastly heavenly sense pleasure and the results of their pious activities are exhausted, they return to this mortal planet again. Thus, those who seek sense enjoyment by adhering to the principles of the 3 Vedas achieve only repeated birth and death. So in three Vedas, if your purpose is to read them to seek sense enjoyment, then you will get that birth and death. That's not the most confidential knowledge. He's saying that knowledge of Vedas is not confidential. Okay, forget about being most confidential because you, with the same misery of this world, you are in that grind. Your confidential knowledge or most confidential knowledge has to take you above that misery. That's what we read in the first verse of this chapter. Ananyaschintayanto mam ye jana paryupaste tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam mahamyam. I give protection. What Lord Krishna is saying? But those who always worship me with exclusive devotion, not devoted to other things, just devoted to Lord Krishna, meditating on his transcendental form, that is two-armed, beautiful, form with playing flute, Syam Sundar form. To them, I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. Now, this particular sentence, one has to understand very carefully. Lord Krishna is not saying that if that devotee for some reason, because of the past karma and all, he has very nice bank balance and, nice wife and nice husband and nice children, all doing good, everything happening, I will preserve that. No, Lord Krishna is not saying that. Lord Krishna is saying that actually will become, he will take it not as for the preservation standpoint, but carry what they lack. They actually, if they see that this person is actually lacking that exclusive devotion, then he might as well take it away. So he carries what they lack. So what they lack the exclusive devotion. So he might take it away so that they get exclusive devotion. Okay. It might sound a little bit, ominous, but when you are in this, and Lord Krishna is not going to, everyone coming to ISV temple or, ISKCON temple, Lord Krishna is not going to do that with them. But Lord Krishna is saying, if you want to reach the highest, then you have to give the highest sacrifice. Okay. And then we have to understand this. I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have from that perspective. Okay. But then there are devotees who have a lot of wealth, everything they have dedicated to Lord Krishna, like, Bhakti Vinod Thakur says, my wife, my children, my house, everything is yours. I am just a watchman. You are the master of this house. Right? Bhakti Vinod Thakur is saying, one of our acharyas, Gauri Vaishnava acharyas, right? So in that mood, if you're there, yeah, because he doesn't have to take it. He's saying that his devotee is saying it belongs to you. And they behave that way also. They behave that way. Once in a while, they will, not once in a while, most of the times they will, organize kirtans, they will do bhakti vriksha, they will, bring sannyasis or, other elevated people to their house, they let them stay, right? So they have dedicated their house, or they may even, keep, the books in their house for distribution like that, right? So it depends basically, because Lord Krishna only makes sure that attachment you have to the material world does not exist. You may have material opulence around you, but if you don't have attachment, he's fine. Basically, he's not going to take it away from you if you dedicate that to the service. Okay. Ye api anya devata bhakta yajante shraddhayanvita tepi mameva kaunteya yajanti vidhipurvakam. Lord Krishna is saying, those who are devotees of other gods, he again, flips to the other side. Other gods and who worship them with faith actually worship only me, O son of Kunti, but they do so in a wrong way. They think they are doing worship of, because all these worships in Vedas, you will say they are yagya-based worship, right? There is this yagya pit and there's a fire and not yagya fire, right? With these different demigods, right? They are thinking they're offering it to those demigods, but that is what Lord Krishna is saying. They're doing it in a wrong way. They don't understand that they're actually, when they're offering to that fire, it is me who is taking that. Yagya is another name of Lord Vishnu. And then it goes to the demigods. They're doing everything, but their consciousness is not right. That's what Lord Krishna is saying. Aham hi sarva yagyana bhokta cha prabhurev cha na tumam abhijananti tattvenatascha vantite. I am the only enjoyer and master of all sacrifices. Therefore, those who do not recognize my true transcendental nature, they fall down. Okay? So one has to accept that fact that ultimately the person who is enjoying is Lord Krishna. Okay? And he is the master of all sacrifice. Okay. And if you don't accept that, then you fall down, basically. Right? Because all these demigods, why you fall down? And he's going to explain that fall down aspect now. Yanti deva vrata devam pitrin yanti pitrivata bhutani yanti bhuteja yanti matyajino apimam. Those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship the ancestors go to the ancestors. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings. And those who worship me will live with me. Right? Right? And he said before that those who go to Krishna, they will stay with Krishna, but other demigods, they will come back and go up, like a Ferris wheel. Okay. And how we are supposed to worship Lord Krishna? Very simple, he's saying in this verse. Patram pushpam phalam toyam yo me bhaktya prayachati tad aham bhakti upahritam ashnami prayatatmana. If one offers me with love and devotion, those are the most important aspects. A leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water, I will accept it. He is not going to accept where you are envious of other living entities. You kill them and then you offer meat and all those abominable things. No, he will not accept it. Because as we said before, when we know you are not envious of Krishna, you are not envious of any living entity. Right? And you're killing other living entity for your taste means you're envious of them. Right? So Krishna, you are not, then that love and devotion is not there. Basically, you cannot have this, you're saying I'm devoted to you, Krishna, but then you're killing your brothers. He will not accept that, offering. Yat karoshi yadashnashi yadjuhosi dadashi yat tapasyashi kaunteya tat kurushva mad arpanam. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer or give away, and whatever austerities you perform, do that, O son of Kunti, as an offering to me. Now, this is another aspect you have to understand in the previous verse. It's not that you will fake love and devotion, and you have very nice food, then to Krishna you are offering just one flower. No, that is why for those people Lord Krishna is clarifying here. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer or give away, whatever austerities you perform, do that, O son of Kunti, as an offering to me. He's saying, for those kind of people, offer everything to me, basically. Shubha, Shubha, Falarev. So what Lord Krishna is trying to say in these two verses is that if you are very poor, you don't have anything other than this, right? Maybe you are a sage, living in a hermit. You don't have anything other than this. And we have love and devotion, you accept, I'm fine. But if you have a lot of things, offer all that to me. That is what Lord Krishna is trying to say. Okay, just wanted to clarify that. Subha Shubha Falarevam Mokshayasya Karma Bandhana Shanyasa Yoga Yuktatma Vimukto Mamupashashi. In this way, you will be freed from bondage to work and its auspicious and inauspicious results. Subha Shubha. Okay. You will be relieved. With your mind fixed on me in this principle of renunciation, you will be liberated and come to me. So when you offer everything to me, okay, then that reaction to that work, even if by mistake you commit some inauspicious act or because of your profession or occupation, like Kshatriyas, they have to kill people. It is an inauspicious act. The businessmen, they sometimes have to lie. It is not inauspicious. To lie is inauspicious. Lord Krishna is saying, you know that this is inauspicious, but because it is Lord Krishna's instructions, Lord Krishna's rules, Varnashram Dharma you are following. You're forced to do that. but then you offer the results to him. Don't keep it for yourself. Okay? Then you will be relieved of the bondage of war. Right? That is what Lord Krishna is saying. That reaction will not be there. Samoham sarvabhuteshu na me dveshosti na priya ye bhajanti tumam bhaktya mahi teshu chapi aham. I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I am equal to all. But whoever renders service unto me in devotion is a friend, is in me, and I am also a friend to him. Right? So he is not partial to anyone. Right? He is also a person. We have to understand. Lord Krishna is also a person. If someone is praising him, glorifying him, he also needs to reciprocate. Right? We cannot ask him to be stone-hearted. Right? He has to reciprocate. So that's his reciprocation to his devotees. These devotees, you have to understand, the devotees has given up everything, and in return, okay, they want some reciprocation from Krishna. That's it. That's what the pure devotees want. So you have to look at that aspect also. You cannot say that, Lord Krishna is, always partial to devotees. You have to also look at the sacrifice the devotees are making in their life. Right? Api chet su duracharo bhajate mam ananya bha sadhureva shamantavya shamyagya vashito hisha. Even if one commits the most abominable action, if he is engaged in devotional service, he is to be considered saintly because he is properly situated in his determination. Shipram bhavati dharmatma sasvashantim nigacchati kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati. He quickly becomes righteous and attains lasting peace, O son of Kunti. Declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes. Now, one has to understand here the aspect that Lord Krishna is talking about is well understood, right? That even if they commit some abominable act by accident, then is still to be considered saintly. But one should not take advantage of this statement of Krishna and intentionally, repeatedly commit the sinful acts. No, then it will not, because this is not even a devotee, basically. Right? He's a pretender, as Lord Krishna said in the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad-Gita. Right? Pretenders are not devotees, basically. He's pretending to be a devotee. Here, Lord Krishna is talking about real devotees who is sincerely trying to improve themselves, but accidentally there is a fall down. Mam hi partha vyapashitya ye apishu papayonaya striyo vaishyas tatha sudras te api yanti parangati. O son of Pritha, those who take shelter in me, though they be of lower birth, women, vaishyas, merchants, and sudras, workers, can attain the supreme destinations. Now, just to be politically correct a little bit, I'll just say that don't get disheartened by this statement here Lord Krishna is saying. Is first of all, we have to understand that in 2nd chapter itself, Lord Krishna is saying that in all the hearts there are souls, and this outer covering is just a body. It's a temporary thing. Okay, so that's one. The second is when you are in the path of devotion, then this distinction, okay, woman versus brahmana, kshatriyas, vaishyas, sudras, right? It goes away. Basically, everyone then is a devotee, and they're just doing at that time. There is no lower birth, upper birth. Okay, and everyone is doing their devotional service, and to Lord Krishna, then everyone is equal. All devotees are equal. Just like to Lord Ram, a spider was as good as was trying to help him in building the bridge, was as good as Lord Hanuman. Right? So one should not get this. And the third point is in this Kali Yuga, basically. So everyone is Sudra. So everyone falls under this category. 99% people, they are all Sudras. Okay, simply because you are putting a thread, that doesn't mean you become Brahmana. You have to lead a profession of being Brahmana. At an occupation. That means you cannot accept a salary. Most of the Brahmanas these days, they have a fixed salary. So they are actually, as Hanuman Prasaka Prabhu used to say, these are Brahminical Sudras, basically. Right? So don't get disheartened, but I think what Lord Krishna is trying to make a point that they all can be brought to the same level. That is, we should focus on that aspect, where we are going, not where we are. Kim punar brahmana punya bhaktarajarshayas anityama sukham lokam imam prapya bhajasvamam. How much more this is so of the righteous brahmanas, the devotees and the saintly kings. Therefore, having come to this temporary miserable world, right? It doesn't matter whether you are a righteous brahmana or you are a vaishyas or sudras, it doesn't matter. This is a miserable world. This is miserable for everyone, right? So engage in loving service to Krishna. So here itself you will be little bit, you will be peaceful. Whatever peace is possible, it will be possible through this loving service. And then you will go back, to Lord Krishna, Dham, Manmana, where there is no misery, right? And it is eternal. Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mahmevashashi yutvaivam atmanam matparayana. Engage your mind always in thinking of me. Become my devotee, offer obeisances to me and worship me. Being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me. So Lord Krishna is saying, always, keep me in your consciousness, do everything for me, and then you will come to me. So that's the confidential knowledge, the beginning, this whole chapter. Now I'll just stop here and quickly check if there are any questions in here or in YouTube. Looks like there are no questions here. So we are going to close the session today. Thank you, devotees, who all joined online. We are going to close the session here. Hari Bol, Jai Shri Krishna.